Welcome back. You are watching the news from Kazakhstan. I'm Marina Kim and these are the top stories. Disaffected real estate interest holders and businessmen are hunger striking in northern Kazakhstan. The authorities ignore the situation. A London court placed an arrest on the property of the former owners of the Kazakh gold company. Farmers suffering from the recent drought are declined an insurance. Three participants of a hunger strike of a real estate construction interest holders who protest against the government decree on the housing ownership limits were taken to a hospital on Monday. Meanwhile, the strikers are now supported by the oppositional parties. Find out more from the next report.
Three hunger strikers were hospitalized in Astana. In the meantime, 13 other interest holders continue protesting against the government decree, which imposes limits in estate ownership to one flat to one person only. The protesters were supported by political parties of Kazakhstan. Starting yesterday, the hunger strikers' actions are coordinated by a number of oppositional forces, including the Algan-registered party and Azad National Social Democratic Party. The latter forwarded an official letter to the government demanding to solve the problems of striking interest holders. The authorities, including presidential administration, government, Akims, banks, the Samruk Kazina Fund, all involved in misusing of the funds allocated for specially solving the interest holders and mortgages problems. The proposal to impeach President Nursultan Nazarbayev was greeted with enthusiastic applauses. The Alga People's Party is initiating the impeachment of the President Nursultan Nazarbayev today. The hunger strike in Astana distinguished with employing the marketing tools as the venue is filled up with consistent style posters and protesters in thematic t-shirts, which feature the demands and threats continuing for 11 days already.
The authorities simply don't care about the problems and tragedies of an ordinary citizen. The tyranny of officials has become normal. For 2 years they experienced the abuse of their human dignity but still cope with it.
Meanwhile, the interest holders still hope that the government members will relate a political will after all and adequately respond to their problem. The mass hunger striking campaign will last until the OSCE member states leadership summit will take place in Kazakhstan.
In the meantime, several people have joined the hunger strike of Kokshetau businessmen who protest against the relocation of a local central market, raising the final number of strikers to 12. The local branch of the unregistered party Alga has launched a campaign to send the Kokshetau mayor telegrams, but the local authorities simply ignore the protest action.
Hunger strike was organized by entrepreneurs in North Kazakhstan. 3 women launched a protest campaign against the actions of the local administration last weekend. They demand to restore the market, which has recently been moved into the outskirts of the city. The traders are sure that this will lead to their bankruptcy. However, the idea of moving it out of the town has been discussed for 2 years, but only this year the administration took a decisive measure. We were visited by police 3 times, the national security officers watching us from downstairs all the time by switching turns. The ambulance came to check our health condition. No one else ever shown up here, neither the head of the regional administration nor the city mayor's office. It feels like they simply don't care about us. The Algan registered political party has joined in supporting the protesters. It has forwarded letters to the Kokshetau city and Akhmelitsk regional administrations calling the officials to prevent the tragedy. First of all, we want to support people who weren't afraid of speaking out of their problems and organizing hunger strike to protest. Members of the party across Kazakhstan support this campaign. However, authorities keep silent so far. Ignoring is not a solution, says one of the housing issue activists, Esenuk Tishbayev, who has been involved in solving problems of construction boom victims for many years. He is sure the authorities force citizens to go for extreme measures. There were cases of supposed suicides when people jumped down the high-rises and crashed themselves in car accidents. I'm sure people go for it out of total desperation. Kazakhstan sadly has a solid hunger strike record, says Uktishbayev. Normally the officials win in such political battles. However, the power over weight is a matter of time as the number of discontents is increasing.
A new wave of protests engulfed Kyrgyzstan. This time local activists are opposing the government's decision to bring in the OSCE police forces to regulate the situation in the southern Ocean Jalalabad regions. Demonstrations were organized by several youth unions, which consolidated into the movement Kyrgyz people against external forces.
Around 300 people gathered in front of the Kyrgyz parliament in Bishkek yesterday protesting against the entrance of the OSCE police forces into Kyrgyzstan. Protesters' posters read, "No to repeat of Kosovo scenario in Kyrgyzstan, don't let the OSCE forces in." Participants claim if the government will not stop this process, then they will do all possible not to let European experts in. We don't need any consultants. Today around 5,000 people across the country joined the campaign. If you don't accept our demands, tomorrow we'll have about 50,000 people here. The issue of bringing the OSCE consultative police group into Kyrgyzstan was reviewed during the OSCE Foreign Affairs Ministers' informal summit held on July 17th in Almaty. The OSCE Conflict Prevention Center Director Helbert Zalbert has outlined then that its contingent was going to arrive in Kyrgyzstan only upon request of its president, Roza Tunbayeva. Zalbert said that police group consists of 52 or 102 officers, depending on the final decision coordinated by all members of the OSCE. According to the preliminary calculations, the OSCE is going to spend €1 million in support of this initiative.
I'm not sure. I think 50 to 100 international police officers being visible there through their uniforms, through the sign of OSCE that they are wearing, that will have an impact. It will make a difference.
The Transportation Prosecutor's Office of Uralsk accused the Jaikhmunai oil-producing company of oil smuggling. A criminal case was already instigated against the company, charged with illegal enrichment for the total amount of $5 million. This is not the first case when Kazakh authorities are persecuting oil-producing companies, nor is this a coincidence, say some experts. The next story has details.
The Ural Transport Prosecutor's Office had accused the Jaikhmunai oil-producing company in illegal base oil export. According to the oversight body, the company had been transporting the raw material abroad without authorizing documents. Thus, about 32 tons of crude oil was exported to Finland between January 1st and February 18th of the current year, making a $5 million profit. Jaikhmunai is a private entity which explores, develops and sells oil and gas condensates in the minefields of northwestern Kazakhstan. At the moment, the criminal case is at preliminary investigation stage. Company officials refrain from commenting the situation. I really don't know. The senior management is absent. They may be available by the end of COB or tomorrow. I can't comment it. There is a growing trend in persecution of the oil-producing companies in Kazakhstan. The chronology is impressive. 2 years ago, the Adjib KCO consortium was charged with numerous violations, and in March this year, the Karachaganak Petroleum Operating was accused in making the $700 million profit out of illegal oil extraction. Just recently, on July 12th, one of the major oil companies in the country, Chevroil, has been added to the list. Some experts say criminal persecution is the perfect way for the government to force the foreign oil developers to share the profit with the state, represented by the Kazmunai Gas. We can refer to the presidential case of Saudi Arabia, which eventually had nationalized all the foreign assets by consolidating them under the umbrella of one state corporation. Thus, all of foreign oil developers work in the Saudi Arabia on interest rate based on the produced oil volume. This is the scenario of the Kazakh government has chosen to increase the market share of the Kazmunai Gas to maximum extent. That's where we are going to. Kaznachev suggests that foreign investors developing the Kazakhstan minefield will get paid off by Kazakh authorities with shares, thus avoiding the international court. The experts are sure that the oil-producing company management perfectly realized the worthlessness of suing the government of entire country, especially when most of the oil contracts are not transparent.